Hello. Thank you for joining us today to discuss our new 2026 event, the NASCAR San Diego Weekend. We're joined today by Jimmie Johnson, co-owner of Legacy Motor Club, seven-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, and the 2024 NASCAR Hall of Fame inductee. Before we open up for questions, Jimmie, you have roots in Southern California. Can you share what it means to bring a NASCAR street race to the San Diego region?
Yeah, this is really exciting. I honestly didn't think that NASCAR would ever be able to race in San Diego. Growing up in El Cajon and watching it develop and change so much, and watching El Cajon Speedway sadly go away, just the reality or thought of NASCAR in a traditional sense on an oval in San Diego, it just never seemed possible. And when Chicago came on the schedule, I was like, I wonder what other cities might be able to host a NASCAR event. And not long after, I learned that there was some interest in and around San Diego, and to see this all come together now, I am so excited to have a race back in my hometown, and happy to be here on the call today supporting it.
Outstanding. Well, thank you, Jimmie. With that, we'll now open it up to questions. As always, if you have a question, please click the raise your hand button. When I call your name, please unmute yourself and share your name and affiliation before asking your question. With that, we'll open it up first with Bob Pockrass.
Yeah, Jimmy, NASCAR says that they're still working on the course. So was curious, what would you like to see in the course layout?
Yeah, I don't know what they're working with, so it's tough to tell. Uh, Boy, it's really hard just to kind of shoot in the dark on it. But with Chicago and our group, NASCAR group, having some experience building a track that creates good passing zones and opportunities to put on a good show, I feel like we're going to be in a good place and have a really solid circuit to compete on. With so many cars, you'd assume we'd have a full field at 40 for this event. Pit road's going to be a major priority, and to be able to have enough space and pit all the cars. I think of IndyCar, and you've probably seen that recently in Michigan, where they have the split lane just to accommodate. So I don't know all the challenges that they're going to face with the location, but I'm highly confident we're going to have an incredible venue, incredible backdrop, and great racing.
Is there any way to SVG proof it, or try to limit he might have?
No, especially on a street circuit, and especially first time to a street circuit. He just has a whole different set of tools to, put into play. And good for him. He's a hell of a talent.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Jordan Bianchi next.
Hey, Jimmy, appreciate the time this morning. I'll start with this, kind of a little bit tongue in cheek. You haven't announced your official retirement or anything. You still race sporadically. Is this intrigue you as something to add on to your schedule?
Definitely does intrigue me. Obviously, it's new news, but the desire to race in my hometown is off the charts. So I will aggressively work on being in the event. And if for some reason I'm not able to pull that off, I will absolutely be there and help support Legacy Motor Club, all of our partners, NASCAR, the city. And we're also coming up on our 20th anniversary for the Jimmie Johnson Foundation. So I see, which will be next year. So I see a really neat opportunity for me to come home and really be a part of the festivities in this event.
Very good. And then from the team owner's perspective, when you look at NASCAR's expansion plans, whether it's Chicago, San Diego, Mexico City, is there one, what do you think of it overall? And then two, is there an area of the country that you look at and still, I'd say I really want to be in that part of the country?
I think major markets are really important. I also think that the international markets are important. Um, Everybody's going to debate them and talk in different directions, but the more we can move into these major markets, domestic or otherwise, and also hit new pockets around the country where we haven't traditionally been, we're only going to grow the sport. And so I think that brings in eyeballs, it brings in new partners and relationships. And I think it also bolsters relationships that teams and tracks and NASCAR already have. We end up in people's backyards that we traditionally don't. So that diversification is really helpful and key as we try to grow the sport.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll go to Dustin Long next.
Thanks. Jimmie, I'm just curious, following up on Jordan's question, and you talk about, everything kind of lining up for next year and kind of going home. I know drivers don't like to announce the actual end date of their competitive career, but it would seem like this would be the perfect event for you to have your final cup race. Is that, again, I'm not trying to put you out to pasture,
You sure sound like it, Dustin.
but is look, numbers have always kind of meant things, significant things,
Yeah.
and the opportunity, you say coming home, that just seems like that could be the description of what this weekend could be, and kind of coming home, and it could mean different ways. Is that something that could be a final cup race for Jimmie Johnson next year?
It hasn't crossed my mind, so I want to respond with no. But who knows? And we'll have to do some planning over the off season. I want to keep going. I want to stay in a car. I think it's good for us. Um, we're hopeful to have a third charter, need to start building a team, and there's a chance that I run more races next year if we have a third charter on the docket and have a sponsor to bring along, team members to groom, a crew chief to get reps, a driver to get reps. So there are a lot of scenarios that are in play, and I'm hopeful I can keep going. But I certainly don't want to feed you guys a line of BS here. There also is a scenario where that would make sense, but we have put zero effort into the idea yet at this point. But I have more years in me, and I want to keep going.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Well, like I said, I wasn't trying to put you out to pasture,
I
but
know,
it just
buddy.
seemed like it was a lot of things lined up well there for you if you wanted to.
You put a great idea in my mind that I hadn't thought of yet.
We'll go to Pat Jaggers next.
Hey, Jimmie, I was just kind of curious when you were brought into the mix for San Diego and NASCAR, what type of insights or maybe questions were you asked, or maybe you were kind of maybe some of the opinions you were asked to give when it comes to San Diego? Just kind of curious, like what your thoughts and kind of insights you gave to NASCAR throughout this process, or if any.
When I was approached, it was much more of a this is what we're doing conversation versus what do you think? And to a San Diegan to hear those words, just smiling. I'm like, no way. Like this really can happen. So from everyone at NASCAR and their vision of growth, vision of being in Southern California, doing something unique and different. Credit to everybody at NASCAR for putting this together and being so adamant in San Diego being the destination and where the street circuit needs to go.
And just a follow up to something that was kind of discussed earlier with Shane Van Gisbergen. He's been quite the dominant guy in the road course, is obviously going to be the favorite on the street course when we do go to San Diego next year. You had a teammate in Jeff Gordon that was pretty awesome on the road course. So I just want to get your opinion. Do you think Shane Van Gisbergen is the best road course driver in NASCAR history? What's your thoughts?
And it's tough to put that label on the guy, 2 seasons into driving stock cars. But the conversation is warranted. And I think time will tell, but he is in another stratosphere compared to road course racers. Um, Seeing him up against Tony Stewart at his peak, that would have been an interesting moment in time to kind of see peak to peak. Even Jeff Gordon, that we've had drivers go on a run on road courses in the past. The greatest of all time, I think that is kind of given to someone over a long duration of time versus just a couple of years. But the skills he has, and if he stays in the sport for 5, 10 years, in my mind, in the way I view it, I would then start to think greatest of all time. But fastest guy to be in a car, like that conversation in a cup car, that conversation is timely. Greatest of all time. We just need more sample sets to choose from.
Thank you, Jimmie. Appreciate you.
Yep.
We'll go to Lee Spencer next.
Thank you. Jimmie, having grown up in El Cajon and familiar with that area and La Jolla and the such, what do you think the fans should be on the lookout for coming there, and why does San Diego deserve to have an event of this magnitude come to their community?
Yeah, it's a community, and granted, I haven't been there a long time, on a full-time basis. But when I think of the annual events that take place, um, the popularity of the Padres, the Chargers unfortunately left, but I think of the Del Mar Fair, various events that take place at the various beaches. The community really loves something to do on the weekends. And with the great weather, the social scene, the relaxed nature, to go to an event and enjoy is top of mind. And people really look for those experiences. And I know there are race fans in and around San Diego, but there are more fans to be discovered there. And to be in the Southern California market is really important. We're obviously not far away from LA and um, the influence that has. So I think it's a really smart strategic move. I would assume it's a little less complex than trying to put an event on in Los Angeles. And I don't know, I'm biased, so I think it's the perfect location, and I can't wait for San Diego to shine. So I think it's going to be great. I really do.
And how encouraged are you by NASCAR reaching out to new communities, taking the product to potential fans as opposed to going to the same places over and over again? And I'll thank you in advance.
Really smart strategy. I I know there's been a conversation internally of moving dates, moving the championship location, even so much as SMI and ISC taking the tracks back private so that they could have this flexibility to move dates around and do what's best for the sport. And to see both track ownership groups truly take that initiative. We lost a date at Texas Motor Speedway to pick one up at COTA, Chicago, uh, and then now to San Diego. That venue swap and change. There's some real creative thought that's coming into play to grow the sport. Mexico City, you can debate good, bad, or ugly. I personally think it was great for us to be in the international playing field and gives us more opportunities. So again, just this forward thinking and how we really grow the sport, get more eyeballs on the sport, and be relevant to other stick and ball sports. Really, really smart.
We'll go to Derek Tuggerson next.
Hey, Jimmy at NBC San Diego here. How you doing?
Doing well.
You have spoken obviously about your own family history with the military, and you've done a lot throughout your racing career to make sure you're honoring military members in their service. Why is that so important to you and for the NASCAR community in general to make sure that if you do something on a Navy base like this, it's done right to really honor the military?
Yeah, with my connection, my grandfather serving and brother-in-law, friends, it's just been close to my heart for a long time. And to enter into the NASCAR space and the way that NASCAR as an industry honors men and women that serve, it's just been a good collaboration of sorts. And I feel fortunate to be in a series that is so focused on it. So with all of that, it gives me great confidence as we do come to San Diego and race on a military base that it'll be done, top notch and be be correct. So excited to come back for personal and I guess professional reasons. And I think NASCAR's pre-race show and their intentionality around honoring men and women serve or have served, uh, I think they do it better than anybody. And I can't wait for them to shine again.
And then finally, for me, road street courses obviously are very different, and you got a little more experience then with your IndyCar time. But what makes it so different from just your traditional, your oval type racing setup, and why is it such a kind of a specialized thing that the great drivers sometimes have trouble adjusting to?
Yeah, the way the track evolves and the way so compressed and the consequences are so high that it requires great accuracy. And if you don't have a lot of experience in, kind of these concrete environments where you can't just hang a tire in the grass and save it, you hang a tire, you smash the wall, break toe links, car's destroyed, and you're out of the race. Uh, Being in that kind of repetition on a road course, we typically don't have a lot of experience doing it. And when you look at SVG and his experience, that series does a lot of that racing. So he's extremely comfortable with it on top of an entire lifetime of racing on road street courses. So it certainly swings his way. And a lot of it is just that razor sharp edge of um, finding the performance and not making a mistake. And it just really requires a lot of other drivers.
Okay, we'll go to Israel Herman.
Hey, Jimmy, how you doing?
Great.
Greetings from Mexico City. Well, I know this conference it has a purpose, but I want to ask you something that's kind of related with the purpose of the conference. There's, been a lot of rumors, a lot of things being said, and things happening around my fellow countryman, NASCAR Cup Series driver Daniel Suarez, and I want to ask you if obviously, he ends his contract with Trackhouse Racing this season. Is he in the radar of Legacy Motor Club, or how you approach the situation? Obviously, considering this race in San Diego, where obviously it's a widely Mexican market.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, Danny's a great friend and somebody I stay in touch with, and I kind of knew his situation from a friend standpoint for a while. Great talent and very popular, and can really perform on any track, and then has great sponsorship interest, and is a very well-rounded modern day NASCAR athlete. So a real opportunity for any team owner. I would love to think about him seriously, but I don't have a seat. On top of the fact, I'm not sure if and when we'll get a seat, as we're trying to acquire our third charter. So I would look hard at him if we were prepared and ready and moving in that direction. But in this instance, I highly doubt timing's going to work out. But I think he's a great talent and should have plenty of options.
Yeah, but as you mentioned just a minute ago, obviously it's not guaranteed you're looking after Daniel, but it's a guarantee that Legacy Motor Club is looking for a third charter, right?
Correct. Yes, that is a guarantee.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to Claire Lang next.
Thank you. Growing up with the diverse racing background that you have, I'm thinking about, racing, off-road racing and whatnot. What was your relationship with any street course racing when you grew up? Had you ever been to one? Had you ever thought you'd see this? And street course racing for you would be what, given your background?
Yeah, the one street course race I remember going to was at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. It was I guess an IMSA race. And if memory serves me right, I think Bobby Rahal won the race, and it might have been like the Lowenbrow Porsche or something like that. I was quite young. I remember my dad found a spot where we could peer through the chain link fence, had this like green screen on it. There's a little spot where I could look through and see victory lane, see him climbing out of the car. But that had to be 80s, early 80s, mid 80s. So pretty vague memories of that. But from a road course street environment, that's the only one that I remember. We had El Cajon Speedway, and we'd go watch the midgets. My dad also volunteered occasionally on a late model stock that ran there. Maybe it was a super late model back then. But my world was dirt, and where I grew up, just inland in El Cajon, that really is the hot spot for motocross racing. When you look back through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the champions came out of there. And anybody that wanted to be a champion moved to that area. Now that world has moved a little further north, but still in California. Off-road industry is kind of through Southern California as well, and some other areas. But it was really kind of a dirt culture, at least through my lens as a young adult growing up there. And NASCAR street racing, asphalt racing in general, was a little harder to find. We had plenty of sprint car tracks. There was a racetrack in Chula Vista called Speedway 117. We had Ascot. Ventura wasn't too far away. So, my upbringing, it was really more dirt focused and less asphalt. So I think this provides a great opportunity to, show the racing scene there more about, asphalt racing and stock car racing. As I say all that, I think of Riverside, and I went in the mid '80s, but that's been so long since Riverside was there. I never went to Ontario, but again, you're talking 3, 4 decades since there was really any stock car racing that close. Um, so I guess those areas are kind of by Fontana, but anyhow, kind of talking in circles, trying to think of it all, but very limited experience specifically to the San Diego area.
And just for my vote, I'm all for a Jimmie Johnson Day in San Diego, but not a retirement day. It's just a Jimmie Johnson Day, and you can go have fun with that. All right.
Thank you. That's what I'm thinking as well.
Okay.
All right, our next question will go to Luis Ramirez.
Thank you. Thanks, Jimmy. The question is about how do you think the circuit races are changing the road to the playoffs? For example, Shane has secured his place thanks to them races. Would you like to see more races of this type in the playoffs? For example, street races, the playoff round. Do you think that is the right direction for the NASCAR?
Boy, it depends if I have a SVG in my uh, driver lineup or not. We're all very selfish in what we want to benefit our teams. Ultimately, I want what's best for the sport, what's best for the fans. And if there is enough excitement and it's the right market for us to take a playoff race to a street course or a major city somewhere in the US or abroad, then yeah, I'm for it. We need to grow this sport. I think there's a great appetite for motorsports worldwide. We're seeing a nice rise in viewership and interest across all forms of motorsports, and we need to keep chasing that. So whatever it takes to grow the sport.
And the other question is, for example, Daniel Suarez raced the Mexico race, the Xfinity with your team. Um, what do you think that affect that Daniel Suarez possibly way out of the series in the plans of the NASCAR to be more international? How do you think that this can affect?
Yeah, I don't think Daniel's going to be out. I mean, it's never fun to be looking for a job, but it is early in the process of silly season. So I think there's going to be a lot of movement as there is, most years. And I think he'll have some strong options to consider. So I don't think he's out of a cup car. I mean, he's a recent race winning cup driver, and there's always going to be room for someone like that on top of his sponsor appeal and international appeal. So I'm confident he's going to find, a very solid ride to compete in. Um, yeah. And then I think his Xfinity win, just as a friend, I could only imagine. I texted him this after he won that afternoon, just to soak it in, to win in your hometown like that, your home country, and I should say, and to see the fans as I watched it on television going crazy for him was just really cool, and I hope he really savored that moment.
Thanks.
All right, our next question will go to Stephen Toronto. Go ahead, Stephen.
Jimmy, just from a business perspective, can you discuss the impact of being in the Southern California market and how important that is for sponsorship? And then how does being in the San Diego market, I guess, compare to Los Angeles on that front?
I don't have a good sense of LA versus San Diego. You have to assume it's a little smaller of a market, but you would hope to poll. I think the uniqueness of the event and the location will help for eyeballs, through television and whatever platform, if it's streaming or traditional television that it's on. So I think that new and interesting, unique opportunities really have people tune in. And I believe Chicago was a great example of that. In seeing, for a year or two, three, there's great interest, but as it starts to taper off, let's take it somewhere else. And no one has shared with me that that's why or the strategy, but just logically watching, why can't we move this around from city to city and create interest and continue to hit new markets tap into new sponsors. It's hard to say that it fits every sponsor's case study or need. I think Mexico City was a little challenging in some respects because sponsorship was sold, and many of them are domestic companies. And what good is that going to do for a company in Mexico? But as we got back from that and learned and saw the impact that we had on Prime, it's like, wow, there were so many people that tuned in. Well, that's a win. So until we have the race and can reflect back on it, it's hard to make really educated comments on it. But I would say the Mexico City event had some headwinds internally as we looked at our sponsors, and we took sponsors down there that are all domestic. But when we came back and reviewed everything and saw the eyeballs, it was a win, and it worked out really well for us. And so, again, it's just going to take a little time to figure out how to work this around. But I again applaud NASCAR for being aggressive and taking us to new markets.
That makes sense. Thank you, Jimmie.
Yep.
All right, Jimmie, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Obviously looking forward to this event in 2026, and a big, good luck to your teams as they head to Indianapolis this weekend as well.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody tuning in.